Let me explain this in very simple crayon eating terms any Republican can understand. Those South Korean engineers, yes, were here on a visa, a visitor's visa, a non working visa. More specifically, how it's stated is they're not allowed to get compensated by American companies for what they're doing here. Because even though it's just a visitor visa, they're still working. They're still showing these people how to build and operate the machines that was going to allow you and me to work there and have 8,000 American jobs. But that's not happening now. Oh, they were working for free. That's slave labor because we're so worried about people. Hey, if you were that worried, you should have looked into the fact that they do get paid when they go back home after their assignment here, which is usually 1 to 2 months. They'll show laborers here getting paid, Americans getting paid, how to build and operate this machinery, and then they go back home and get paid themselves by their own government and their own company. They're not taking American jobs. They were literally here giving us the opportunity to have 8,000 of them in Georgia, and all of you idiots took that away completely. I hope that helps.
It's the largest raid in U.S. history. 475 workers arrested at a construction site in Georgia. All of these people were construction workers or construction managers building an electric battery plant for Hyundai. All were South Koreans. Governor Kemp of Georgia actively solicited South Korea to spend billions of dollars to build this plant. ICE is proud of themselves. They arrested 475 people, but this exposes a huge conflict in our government right now. Donald Trump is running around the world making deals with countries. And the deal is invest money in the United States and you can avoid tariffs. Yet at the same time, after they invest their billions of dollars, Donald Trump is deporting the workers needed to build the infrastructure to support these investments from these countries. Take, for example, the U.S. battery industry, the actual factory where all these workers were arrested from. Trump is asking to build more battery factories in the United States. Yet 82% of industry leaders said in a recent survey that the United States lacks skilled workers to build these factories and operate these factories. And hundreds of thousands of jobs remain unfilled right now in the United States. So we're asking for investment. We don't have workers to build this investment. We're deporting the workers who are already here that are helping to build these investments. Tariffs are going up. And what countries are going to want to invest in the U.S. if we're arresting their citizens and deporting them?
Frankly, Chris, it's surprising that we haven't seen raids of this scale at workplaces yet. We've seen such a crackdown on cities, primarily those run by Democrat mayors. We haven't seen a lot of workplace raids. And ICE officers will tell you, if you want to get big numbers, as this administration does, workplaces are typically where they start. So this one stands out. They went into this Hyundai facility in Georgia. We understand more than 400 people were arrested. Now, the special agent in charge of Homeland Security investigations in Georgia, the part of ICE that carried this out, said this was not something that is part of the immigration crackdown you're seeing that's happening week by week, day by day across the country, that this took months of planning. Take a listen to what he said.
This was not a immigration operation where agents went into the premises, rounded up folks, and put them on buses. This has been a multi-month criminal investigation where we have developed evidence, conducted interviews, gathered documents, and presented that evidence to the court in order to obtain a judicial search warrant. Yesterday, we executed that search warrant and gathered additional evidence that will support this investigation.
And Chris, oftentimes what we see when there are workers who are working undocumented is that they may have used someone else's identification and tax number in order to get that job. We're also hearing from the company who said that it was their understanding so far that none of those detained is directly employed by the Hyundai Motor Company. They say we prioritize the safety and well-being of everyone working at the site and comply with all laws and regulations wherever we operate. And I have to say, from covering workplace raids in the past, that can sometimes be common, that there can be subcontractors and they can even have contractors who do all of the hiring that aren't talking to the parent company. Sometimes it can distance themselves from liability in situations like this. But in this case, they're saying these were not people directly working for them, Chris.
Operation Low Voltage is what a ICE, Homeland Security, CIA, FBI, all were involved in raiding this factory in Elabel, Georgia. And I remember a Republican governor, Brian Kemp, who is the governor of Georgia, he maybe was one who was involved in lobbying for Hyundai to bring their factory in Georgia. 7.6 billion complex. And what these Koreans were doing, these expatriates, according to Hyundai, they were brought in to assess the progress of construction projects because they said that US lacks enough skilled labor to work in such operation. So that's why they sent their expatriates from their headquarters in Hyundai. But again, they claim that it was a contractor, they were not involved. I don't know, it's a bit complicated, but the rates have raised South Koreans much. Like South Koreans are very proud people. So they are very angered by the situation. I don't know what Trump will say about it.
This woman, who goes by the name Tori Brenham, is the reason why the ICE raid happened at the Hyundai facility in Georgia. Now, if you don't know who this woman is, she is running for Georgia's 12th congressional district as a Republican. And there is a huge Rolling Stone article confirming that it was indeed her. In this article, she talks about how she came in contact with a local Spanish-speaking union worker who had access to the site. And it was through this informant, Tori Brenham heard rumors that they were using undocumented labor on this facility. And she also heard rumors that 3 workers got unalived during construction. So Tori over here blew the whistle on the Hyundai facility over a rumor. And what's really crazy is that she is proud of what she did, because she is quoted by saying, "This is what I voted for, to get rid of a lot of illegals. And what I voted for is happening." But the problem is not everyone who was detained was undocumented. For example, 2 people who were detained were engineers from South Korea, and they came to the US to briefly advise on the work. Some had even visa waivers and were prohibited from working. And we had some people who overstayed their visas. But there was definitely no mass influx of illegal workers in there. Now, I'm very curious to see how this is going to affect people voting for her for this 12th congressional district. Will it hurt her or will it help her chances? But it is definitely a risky move having an ICE raid on a huge facility like Hyundai in Georgia, because Georgia got the biggest investment from any country ever.
Let's take it from the top. It's not Hyundai, it's Hyundai. So if you're going to report anything to ICE, at least know the freaking name of it. Number 2, in the first Trump administration, there was an agreement signed between Donald Trump and the South Koreans to bring some of their car manufacturing here to the United States. The South Koreans built a factory in the state of Georgia, and recently they have been adding to it, partnering with one of America's companies, LG, to produce electric vehicles, which would have brought billions to the state of Georgia and to the entirety of the United States and put a lot of people to work. Something you MAGA supporters are always complaining about. All of our manufacturing is being shipped overseas. And now that it's back in the United States, you want to open up your big fat Oopa Loopa mouth to ICE to get these people deported. And now all work has had to cease. And we've just damaged our relationship with one of our closest partners in Asia. I mean, do you people not think? It's this type of ignorance and silliness that got us Donald Trump in the first place, because you people just blindly do stuff. And now you just cost the state of Georgia jobs and money. I mean, what a stupid mother.
Did you know the South Koreans that were detained by ICE at Hyundai this week were actually here legally training Americans on how to do their jobs? Yep, that is true. Hi, if you're new here, I own a recruiting firm and we serve food manufacturing, and I'm talking to leaders in food all day long. And honestly, I should really start a series on what I'm hearing from the trenches. And I'm going to tell you a little story time, and I really hope that you can interact with this post, because I need America to know what's happening in the manufacturing industry right now. So I was talking to one of my meat processing clients. If you've ever eaten at Subway, then you have eaten their products. And they had to let go 90 of their workforce, and they were all here on legal visas. Legal visas. They came here legally, and they didn't expire until 2026, but our administration canceled that program. So poof, gone, they are out the door, and they are struggling to try to replace them. And then 25% of their remaining workforce, they're actually not, they're non-citizens. So leadership is sitting there like, well, what do we do next? How can you grow? How can you strategize? How can you make a business decision about your future when you don't even know if your current employees are going to be able to legally clock in tomorrow? So food companies, and especially meat companies, they're so desperate to recruit. They offer free daycare and medical, because let's be real, you need those kind of perks if you are asking people to come in and slaughter chickens 8 hours a day. They had a daycare director, this beloved woman who had been in the U.S. for years. She's from Russia. She was here seeking asylum and had pending status. She was a poet, basically like Dr. Seuss with immigration paperwork. Kids were in there learning haikus while their parents made hot dogs. Adorable, right? Well, guess what? My client had to let her go, and her husband, who also works for an American manufacturer. So now they're self-deporting to Austria. These companies literally foot canvas. They go to high schools, they're posting jobs, they're doing grassroots campaigns like politicians, like, hey, I'm here for your vote, or at least for your 18-year-old. Does he want to come in and debone a chicken? And shocker, American kids don't want these jobs. Nobody is lining up to spend 8 hours a day turning cows into steaks. And when they do, they last for about a day, maybe two, even with good pay, medical, and with free daycare run by a frickin' poet. Not exactly the career path that your career counselor is guiding your kid at high school, right? And so, yeah, we only added 22,000 jobs in August. No shit, because companies are in survival mode. They have zero confidence that they can make business decisions without batshit crazy administration yanking the rug out from them every single day. They're like trying to run a marathon on a freaking treadmill and it keeps getting unplugged. If you think that it is painful now at the grocery checkout line, oh boy, you are in for it. You are in for it, because we haven't even talked about the farmers that are either declaring bankruptcy or at an alarming rate. This goddamn administration is screwing manufacturing when that's all they talk about is bring manufacturing back. They're screwing you, they're screwing me, the farmer, the manufacturer, and you know what? Our economy it's not good. It is not good. So let me ask you, is America great again?
So Trump said, bring concession to the United States. Yes, bring concession to the United States. And what the Koreans did was actually bring the companies to the United States. So in setting up these companies, we guys are the one who have the experts, and we guys are the one who have the blueprints. So we have to bring our workers in here to do the concession. Then in the production, we can train perhaps your workers. They can do it. But what did the ICE raids do? They took away the expatriates, detained them, and now they want to send them back to Korea. So who will be involved in the construction of these projects if we don't have expatriates to train Americans on how it is done? Because they claimed that US lacked the expertise to do these kinds of construction, which maybe is true or no, I don't know.
You want to know why I side-eyed Georgia when they brag about raiding the Hyundai workers? Because I've been through their system. I lived in Atlanta for 18 years, and on top of that, I lived in Georgia total 20 years. I lived in Savannah. When I got out of aesthetic school, I had everything I needed to work, but Georgia made me wait 2 months for a work permit, 6 months just to test, and another month or two for the actual license. That is almost a year, a whole year. In the meantime, I was technically operating illegally. I had the training, I had the skills, but the state kept me in limbo. Don't act brand new when undocumented folks are working while they wait on papers. Georgia makes it dimly near impossible to get legal, even for people already in their system. The state thrives on red tape, then punish the same workers it depends on. You want the real breakdown on how labor, law, and survival actually work? The full truth is on Patreon. The link is in the bio. Also, if you need the tools to survive, the Survive in America tools, actually, the Survive in America guide is newly updated. It is a guide that has full resources in it. It has links, it has templates, it has letters, it has everything from immigration to militarization. So check that out. Also, if you it has a mini relocation plan in it. If you're ready to really move and you're serious about moving, you go to the Global Move tools. Get the guides. I'm working on a new Latin America guide right now, and I'm also going to be drafting up a relocation guide for creators. That's coming soon. Look, you all can't say I don't have the tools. Now, if you're arguing about you frustrated about my prices, well, you know what? Flex pay. It hits on the 15th. If you can't pay in 4, I don't know what to tell you. Tools in the bio.
Why are so many Asian Americans so silent right now? That's because they didn't vote. Yes, they didn't vote because they didn't like Kamala from their internal misogyny or internal racism and felt indifferent enough about the orange man so that they thought that a no vote was going to the orange man. So the reason why they're not upset right now is because they voted for this. That's why. And that's not me excusing their behavior. I am a disabled person. I was advocating for Kamala before the election, so I had the chance to talk to a lot of my friends. They're not my friends anymore, but people in my life about how this election was going to affect me and people like me. And if they cared about me, why they should vote for Kamala. And they still didn't care. They couldn't care less because at the end of the day, it was all about taxes. Yeah, their tax break. The problem is Asians that have a level of wealth feel this closeness to white people because white people were the only ones that had that level of wealth for so long that they feel like they're getting a chance to be part of the white club, but they're not. And if I could give an insight into maybe why Asians are like this, it's because a lot of our parents and like even my generation as a millennial, we have seen our mother countries very impoverished. Like for me, I'm Korean, so I know South Korea's history. Like South Korea was fully bankrupt in the 80s and saw their first economic boom in the 2000s. It hasn't been that long, and they're in like the top 20 GDP in the world now. That level of wealth growth, normal citizens see that and think, oh my god, if I'm just smart enough and if I invest correctly, I can also get there. And if you look at South Korea, it's an oligarchy. That country is ran by like 3 families, and the main one is the Samsung family. And they have so many scandals. They have done some bad stuff, and the country just lets them get away with it. And if you look at the election turnout, it shows that South Koreans are starting to wake up to the state of like, oh, we're an oligarchy. But Korean Americans, look at the past of Korea, see that you can still succeed, feel like there's a privilege of being in America, utilize the model minority method, and then try to enter the 1%. They think that they could break into the 1%. Wake up. You're not. You're not white enough. You will never be white enough. They will never accept you.
This is how Korea is reacting to the ICE raids at the Hyundai LG battery plant in Georgia. Here's the thing, this was my first job in US. Here I worked as an interpreter and I cannot believe this is happening at the place where I started my career. The US was literally begging Korea for more investment, and now they are arresting hundreds of South Korean business travelers who came here to help build American infrastructure. Korea is not used to being targeted like this, so I'm very annoying as Korean. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments.
So, South Korea has negotiated the release of more than 300 workers who were detained at a Hyundai plant in Georgia. They're being flown home on a chartered plane. But so not only are those workers going home back to South Korea, but we also have many workers from LG Energy Solutions who are being recalled. LG Energy Solutions suspended its employees' business travel to the U.S. after 47 of its employees were detained. And it has asked those currently on business there to return to Korea immediately and said its executive would travel to the U.S. on Sunday in response to the arrest of its staff. There are going to be ripples continuing from this. This isn't over. This isn't settled. I'm not sure that. Well, I think it's a question of, is this the kind of impact that the administration wanted to create? It's either ignorance and competence, and they just don't care, or it's actually that they want to sabotage our economic success for some reason. Because not only is this certain to make South Korea more hesitant about investing in the U.S., about partnering with the U.S., but it sends a message to every other country in the world who's giving any thought to investing in U.S. business, in putting money, plants, factories into the U.S. Or am I wrong? Is there something good about this that you see? What good do you see coming of this?
So, patriots, we are at war with Venezuela. We are at war with Venezuela. We are in a trade war with Europe. Yes, we are at a trade war with Europe. We are at a trade war with China. Through that, we are bombing Iran. We did that. We are at a trade war with both Mexico and Canada, our neighbors. Through that, and now our allies like South Korea, who are bringing the companies here in US. We are raiding in their companies. Yes, we are raiding their companies. Is that good or bad for us? You know? Yes, these guys, as they claim, ICE claims that maybe their work visa had expired, or they are they had overstayed in US, which I don't know. I'm not sure of. We'll have to listen to the verdict. But 7.6 billion US dollars it is at stake. And what Hyundai did, because they were claiming that US workers they lacked the expertise to do the construction, uh, yes, to purposely do the construction which will house the production line of these electric batteries, right? What they did is they subcontracted the work to a contractor who brought in expatriates from South Korea to do the construction. So this construction has been ongoing since 2022. Yes, since 2022. Now tell me, since 2022 until now, 3 years down the line, hasn't there been any government that has seen that something wrong is going on in this company until a congresswoman who is vying for Congress, I don't know, from Georgia, made that phone call to ICE claiming that there was illegal workers in what? In a Hyundai factory. This factory was lobbied by Georgian Governor Brian Kemp, right? So you want to tell me that even the Georgia government wasn't aware about this what was going on in this factory, a factory which the governor himself was involved in lobbying for it to be brought back to US to his state. Uh, so you want to tell me that even the governor, who is a Republican, wasn't sure about it. So to sum this video up, Donald Trump is a man who has no code, a man who has no principles, a man who cannot be trusted for business, a man who bankrupted casino and doesn't know even how business is conducted. You heard me well. These companies, if we want to go in a certain country to do business, in a job which we began and which we have the blueprint of how it is done, we have to come in with our workers, set the factories, then maybe your workers can do the work there. But Donald Trump doesn't do that. He thinks that maybe these guys are wrong. They should employ US workers. And these guys claimed that US lacks the expertise. What they did is bring in some engineers from South Korea, experts, to train US workers as they ongo with their construction. And maybe if the construction is complete, they can take over from that. Hmm? So Donald Trump is not a man who is to be trusted. He is a man who is bad for our allies, for our economy. He's a man who I don't know. Maybe in the midterms, after the midterms, we elect some Democrats. We have the majority in the House. We can probably think about impeaching him. No more, no less.